Our Panama Canal pilots were safely on board the ship before 5 o'clock in the morning. It's April 16, 2010, and it was time to commence our full transit of the Panama Canal. From the Pacific side, we approached the canal by cruising under the Bridge of the Americas. This bridge was built as the first major road crossing the canal. It is an important part of the Pan American Highway, carrying about 9,500 vehicles per day. The construction of the Panama Canal is one of the great engineering feats of the world. It is host to over 12,000 ships per year, or about 30 ships per day. In 1999, Panama received ownership and control of the canal from the United States. The canal is a lock type, approximately 80 kilometers long, and unites the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans at one of the narrowest points of both the Isthmus of Panama and the American continent. The ship headed for the first set of locks at Miraflores to be raised up 26 meters above the ocean level. On board the ship was a local commentator who kept us informed during the transit of the history and some important facts about the Panama Canal.
We do have from 25 to 27 line handlers on board. Notice at the base of the center wall, if you're looking forward, there is a rowboat. We'll see if they're going to bring out the ropes and cables with the rowboat, or if they're going to throw us the lines. And then these cables from the locomotives will be attached to our ship.
Tolls are levied on a net tonnage basis to navigate the canal. This day, our cruise ship would cost around $330,000 to cross the canal, the highest toll paid by a cruise ship. Our entry into the locks was assisted by 8 diesel-electric locomotives called mules, 4 on each side, or 4 in the front and 4 in the back. They used wire cables and worked in pairs to align and tow the ship in position within the lock chambers. It was a slow process to go through the chambers. Once inside the chamber, the miter gates sealed the locks and we ascended to a higher ground. The chambers were flooded with water obtained from the Gatun Lake, and gravity drains the water to the lower levels. Approximately 197 million liters of fresh water are used for each lockage and ultimately flushed into the sea. Miraflores locks has 2 chambers, and so we were lifted twice before entering the Miraflores Lake. Each set of locks features a control house on the center wall of its upper chamber, from which the entire operation is directed. Transiting the canal was like watching a movie as it was being filmed. Everyone had a role to act. We, the ship passengers, had the easy part. We were the spectators, showing our admirations for what was going on, taking as many pictures as we can save into our camera's memory cards, observing from the port and starboard sides of the ship, running to and from the front and rear, or climbing up and down the decks. We were all proud to be part of the experience transiting the canal. The best photo ops were when the gates sealed the locks, the ship being raised to a higher level, and then moving on through the locks assisted and towed by the locomotives. Each locomotive was manned and operated by a local. There were spotters on board the ship and alongside the canal, making sure that the ship's sides didn't touch the chamber walls and that we maintained a smooth passage. Amazingly, less than a foot gap was maintained as we were elevated in the chambers and as we crossed the locks. Panama Canal has been in business for almost 100 years. The gates were closed or opened by a mere 40 horsepower energy generated by the Garden Dam near the end of the canal. The gates were hollow and designed to float. When the gates are closed, people can walk across the top. Our cruise ship didn't let this transit go by without onboard photographers looking up to take our pictures. They got off on a boat early in the morning before our approach, and would also be boarding back from a boat as we sail out of the canal. Some of us made up their posters to send messages like this one. It was a fun event. I and my British friends, Phil and Jin, enjoyed it all.
You picture the wall?
Yeah, just it's a lovely wall, isn't it?
Well,
It's a beautiful wall. The window, you don't have to.
They had a very nice view of the chamber wall as they were having breakfast, while I kept myself busy running around for the photo opportunities. I felt I didn't want to miss anything for this first and maybe once in a lifetime experience. The second lock that we went through was the Pedro Miguel lock. It was a single chamber lock which raised our ship the third time to a higher ground level. Once clear of the lock, the mules were disconnected and we then commenced our scenic cruise along the Garden Lake. In a few minutes, we passed under the Centennial Bridge. This is the second major bridge crossing the Panama Canal. It was built to supplement the overcrowded Bridge of the Americas and crosses the Gaylord Cut close to the Pedro Miguel lock.
Now entering one of the more historic parts of the canal, the Calabra Cut or the Gaillard Cut. Again, there was a gentleman named Gaillard who was responsible for overseeing the engineering in this area, and when he passed away, the cut was renamed in his honor.
Gaylord Cut is the narrowest section of the canal that was curved out of bare rock. The Continental Divide landmark was pointed to us. Soon after is the Gamboa, which is the base operation for all dredging operations in the canal zone to guarantee safe and efficient operations in the waterway. We navigated the Garden Lake before arriving at the last set of locks, called the Garden Locks. We observed several construction activities as we passed the Garden Dam. The Panama Canal was being expanded by adding a third lane of traffic, which allows transit of longer and wider ships. It was past 3 in the afternoon when we cleared off and completed the Panama Canal transit, feeling satisfied that it was finally over. About 9 hours was how long it took us to finally be on our way for our next port of call. This experience was something I would never forget.